So that's was the last presentation that we have today. We had a lot of questions, some of them already answered, and but some of them are still open, and I will go over to that. So the first one was sent already in advance to this conference by Joseph Tan from MNC. And yes, first he thought it's a very interesting topic, and I have a couple of questions, two questions we will give to the audience, to the panelists now. So the first, and he mainly asked the ports to answer. So the first one is, what are the main engineering or performance KPIs that you measure at the port regarding port equipment? So key cranes, RTGs, prime movers, or the machines. And the second one was, what is the required SLA, so service level agreement, between operations and engineering at your port? So he does not require the values, he just wanted to know which, which figures you are looking at, such as MMBF, so mean moves before failure, between failure, or number of equipment, whatever. The questions are clear. Who want to answer first? Perhaps Captain Dawal?
Yeah, I can go with that. For the equipment, primarily, from an operation perspective, it's what it is. The main KPI that engineering and operations share is, of course, the availability. Availability is, of course, the base of which we always, look at it. And being available is just not enough, because then the equipment needs to be reliable as well. So when I put the equipment in production, or I put the equipment on a vessel, I have to believe that it's going to work and deliver what it's supposed to deliver. I don't want it to be failing between operation. So yes, primarily it's the availability and reliability. And reliability, there are various ways of measuring reliability. It's the breakdown hours and the mean time. I think you can actually measure it. Moves between failures or time between failures is the time that you put in operation. And also, once it fails, how long does it take to come back online as well? So it's also putting back in service. How long does it take to put it back in service? So these are the 3 or 4 major KPIs that usually operations has with engineering. And of course, the PMs and making the cranes available for engineering to do their maintenance, and those are something that you can always work on, mutual availability of time and the berth and in between the vessels. So those are very fluid KPIs. But the key ones I would say is, of course, the availability, and the uptime after it fails.
Okay, and what about the service level agreements you do have with the equipment suppliers, or within the maintenance contracts?
Maintenance is primarily in-house, or we have an engineering team that does the maintenance. So that's the in-house team that we have. And the agreement is primarily these are 3 or 4 KPIs that they need to deliver to the operation.
Okay, thank you. So what about Luis or Alberto?
Yeah. I have my voice open, right?
Yes, it's open, yes.
Well, we work, we don't operate directly any terminal, but of course we keep a very close track of their performance, right? So we have mainly 2 different ways to check and to establish KPIs. One is our port community system, where we keep track, for example, of all the waiting time or any kind of incidences that are happening into a terminal. From that system, we have been able to generate an app for the mobile phone, which all the drivers are using, because it indicates the waiting time at every terminal for the last 20 operations. So it gives a very clear idea of how fast is the terminal at this very moment. Of course, then we have all these regular meetings with the terminals to see the number of moves per hour, per crane, per gang, the performance of the different gangs. And we like to see that usually we are in a level of around 40, 45 movements per hour per crane, which is pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. And then we have to combine that with the number of available cranes and the facilities in the pier. So we get to a very interesting number of moves per hour in a particular vessel. But we have, of course, a team on the operations management here in the port, which is not my specialty at this moment. But we receive very careful reports every month, and we are mainly centered on this, the waiting time and the number of moves per hour.
Okay, any remarks from one of the other participants?
Sure, yeah.
Yes. Oh, Alberto.
Yeah, sorry for jumping like that. I mean, the service reliability can be measured from different perspectives, from the operational perspective, in terms of as the other presenters have already mentioned, the number of moves per hour and all that. From the technical perspective, historically we use the mean moves between failure, and that is, let's say, one way to make sure that our equipment is delivering, let's say, a good performance, that we can move a good amount of boxes before we can face a failure. But the KPIs, they're not isolated, and they are usually correlated with other ones, even with equipment utilization, with move per hour, and also with some of the work management KPIs as well. In terms of the service level agreement, there is a quick thing that we need from operations equipment when we are required to execute the maintenance, and also we put there how long it will take the maintenance for them to have their equipment back. So briefly on the SLA, that can have so many points, but those are two of the main ones.
Okay. Yeah, there was another question which seems to be goes in the same direction. I think it's already answered as well. Dear Luis, what are the main technical KPIs that your port follows in order to measure the service reliability and container terminal? I think you just mentioned them, yes?
Yep.
Okay, so there have been also in the questions that already have been answered. I'd like to take two of them out to give it to the whole audience. How automation will be fostered in the container ports of developing countries like Bangladesh? And in this word, so the question is what we understand under automation. It's not the fully automated terminal in the beginning, or must not be, but I think things like Anton, you mentioned, Camco with their, yes, OCR things and so on, they allow process automation as you do it with your gate systems as well, yes?
Exactly, yes, absolutely. So gate automation is certainly not something that is just for the big Western terminals. We see more and more inquiries coming from other sides of the world. What is important is the efficiency. So with a kind of gate automation, or at least, you know, the introduction of portals, camera portals, you can become, as I said, a little bit more the eyes and the ears of a TOS system. And a TOS system is necessary in each terminal. So if you can make sure that via these images and the OCR, so the automatic identification of the containers coming in and going out of a terminal, you can really make it a lot more efficient, having less people walking around as well in those gate areas, which is as well very good for safety reasons. And so without a big, huge investment, you can really streamline much more, have a much better control on what is going in and going out, and have better productivity, and at the end of the day, perhaps a little bit more profitability as well. So absolutely, we see it everywhere.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I think as well. And what is Liebherr thinking about this? What is automation with your products doing?
There are several approaches. As you said already, if we talk about fully automated terminals, maybe even remote control stands somewhere, stuff like this. This is something which is in the beginning maybe not thinkable, but the product itself can be already half or maybe even more automated by itself, and can be kind of semi-operated automatization. Like we have in our systems as well, to relieve crane drivers, for example, like point-to-point driving, where you not have to follow the boom in, boom out stuff, but it only give one point in one and one on the other, and it automatically finds a container or the spot where to drop it. So I think this is the start for countries, not just the automation in the port itself, but to start with the automation in the equipment, and then go from combining the equipment into one TOS system, and maybe then even end up in remote controlled units.
And there are, this is what I mentioned with the process automation, let's say, yes, so that small steps may be automated and may support the people on the terminals. Yes, may it be in the, we also see it in the IT, I think. So in former times, the people on the terminals had to find a location for each single container, and nowadays they only define some rules, and the systems, the IT systems, the TOS systems, they are following these rules, and only in exceptions they ask the planner himself to give the position, and this will go on more and more, also in Bangladesh or other areas. And a similar question was from the same person, from Rasan Chandra Saha. What is the return of installing AI, so artificial intelligence, against normal handling of container at port terminals? Somebody wants to give a view about that? Captain Dawal already answered that this will depend on the level of automation. Yes?
Yeah, it'll depend on the level of automation, right? As we just discussed a while ago, that what step you want to automate. You don't want to build the whole terminal into a really fully automated terminal. You want to automate the few monotonous things that are actually, hampering a productivity or bringing in efficiency. So you start with automating that. So it depends on the level of automation that you want to do, and that will actually also give you a fair idea of what the return would be. If you start small, it actually has a better result, because when you start small, you are attacking the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah.
So the impact is much more, and the return is much faster. But if you go for the fully automated thing, the cost is very high, and you're wondering whether you can actually recover that cost or not. So I would say, if in a country like developing country like be it Bangladesh or even in India, a lot of terminals are a little reluctant based because of the cost. So, but as you rightly said, everybody's now automating some part of the process, and the first thing that they look at is of course the gate automation part, because gate is the most simplest and the fastest way to do it. and the gate process is very, very unique to each and every terminal. Loading and unloading the vessel is probably, it's the same across all the terminals, apart from a few variations. But that's exactly what it is. So go with the level of automation, and then it'll give you a fair idea what the return is. And of course, the cost will vary depending on where it's locally made. Are you using local technology? I would suggest use local technology. If you have the process, a lot of local technology available. Use Camco, which is again, it's a plug and play equipment, or something that'll actually save cost. And typically, I would, if I have to put a number to it, anything between 5, 10, 12 years is what the ROI would be, depending on what level of automation that you choose to do.
Yes, that's. I think we all agree, or somebody else a remark. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There is one. I think it's yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry. The only thing I wanted
Anton.
to add is I concur completely with Captain Dawal. For instance, we have systems where we have just installed a camera system with some basic OCR. And that the gates, for instance, are still manned, so that the operator sitting in those booths can just receive already the images and some of the basic OCR, license plates, container identification, these kind of things, so that when the truck pulls up in his lane, that he can already check all those things much easier via the images that we do give to the operator, instead that he has to lean outside, and look, etc., etc. So there is still, some human communication, if you want, with the truck driver. And in some cases that can be interesting. And then, once you have learned how to work with that system, the next phase typically is that, the booths are replaced or can be replaced by kiosks, and that, the operators will go away from an outside environment and go to an inside environment, meaning that they will sit in an office and just, work on the exceptions. And that makes it, of course, interesting. And again, you have the safety and you have the security, because that is something that we have seen as well. In some cases, we got inquiries to automate, for instance, the out gates, that we said, okay, why should you do that? It's not to save costs, because the labor cost is so cheap here.
Yeah.
There are some other reasons: customs, theft, people looking the other way for half a day, and they can gain already a lot of money. So by just removing too many people that are involved in the gate processes, you can increase the security and the safety as well, significantly.
Yes.
So it's a graduation. You can,
And another aspect is coming in, asking whether it's possible that automation of ship berthing, or the crane, the SDS crane, is more economical than automation of the whole port. But I think we answered already. It's automation is not, the big bang, but it's small steps. Yes, so maybe mooring is one part that may be implemented. The gate, as I mentioned, the IT processes. There are several processes that may be automated step by step, instead of waiting for the big bang or for a greenfield terminal.
Yep.
Okay, so yes. Somebody
we had
wanted to, yes.
This question about the inland terminals, and I'd like to answer that if we have the time, because I believe it's an important thing. The main item we are using to increase the operability of these terminals is the rail, and this is for two targets, because I think we could talk about two different kind of dry terminals. One is a dry terminal which is located very deep in your hinterland, maybe 400, 600 kilometers away. And
Yep.
this is very important because this allows a new pool of customers to come to the port to feel very well served. But there is also a second target, which would be the cleaning up of the port, meaning the number of trucks waiting in line, the traffic congestion in the highways around the port. It's very interesting to think about dry terminals which are located 50 kilometers from the port, or 40 or whatever, but that is serving the same traditional community, but in a better manner. That is very helpful to save money and to save pollution as well.
Yes,
So
for
to
environmental
help
things.
the train, we like to promote this activity. We will lower the tariffs for the rail moving, which is something that we do on ourselves, right? We try to get special agreements with the terminals for them to cooperate with the rail operators very much. And we also organize kind of commercial missions to the areas where the dry terminals are, just to help our operators to get customers in this new pool, right?
Yeah, very important thing for, yes, as you mentioned, for the environment. Yes, it's the main reason. I think that's the reason also for Rotterdam doing this with Maasvlakte too, that they asked, not only asked, forced the terminal operators to use barges to bring the containers nearer to the hinterland, let's say it this way, instead of trucks running all over.
Sadly, we don't have barges. We would need to move them on the road.
Of course. Yes, so there were two other questions that I would like to answer. The first one is, will the recording be available after the webinar, and how can I get it? This is very easy. You will get an email tomorrow with the links. I already made it or had the same last week. And the other one was from Paul Louis. Just in the beginning, he asked us, oh, you're looking all so serious. Smile. It's a lovely day, nice breeze and bright sun. So give him a laugh, give him a smile. And that's, I think we are finished nearly on time.
Yep.
So I will give back to Rosita.
Yep, thank you very much. A special thank you to our moderator, Professor Dr. Holger Schut, for moderating today's webinar. Thank you, Professor. Once again,
you're welcome.
Once again, I would like to thank Liber for sponsoring this webinar. Andres, Christian, thank you very much indeed to you and your team. I would also like to thank our panelists for your time preparing this insightful presentation for the webinar. Thank you very much, panelists. For the presentation given today and the recording of this webinar, they will be available to all registered attendees tomorrow at www.transportevents.com. Thank you to all viewers for your attendance. We hope this webinar has been valuable and informative and helped you develop new business from what you have experienced here today. Please, I ask everyone to follow us at Transport Events on LinkedIn and Facebook, and to visit our website at www.transportevents.com for our latest information on our market-leading annual events and online webinars. All our weekly webinars can be viewed live on both Zoom and Facebook. Please email me if you would like to have your company's latest full-color corporate logo and company details branded exclusively before, during, and after one of the future weekly webinars. Please contact me at rosita@transportevents.com. That's ROSITA@transportevents.com. Looking ahead for next week, please register for Transport Events next weekly webinar focusing on challenges and future opportunities for ports and shipping on the Black Sea on Thursday, 17 September, sponsored by Market Leaders Tinis. Right, thank you everyone. And I look forward to see everyone again next week.
Thank
And
you, Rosita.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
the time.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Very nice being here today.
Yes, was very nice.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.